How's Jaylen going to feel about it? This is a guy with a massive chip on his shoulder. That disrespect card he's been playing it
We
since
know now, right?
Since he got booed, on draft night. He's talking about it in the NBA Finals. There's always an issue. He's liking certain tweets. He's doing this. So what's Jalen's reaction to the rumors? Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Shaking my head. And I get it. And so now you've got Celtics Twitter flooding, Jalen's timeline. We love you. We love you. We love you. We love you.
This is why the fans are so bent out of shape out of this. And he has certainly played into this too with the tweet. We talked about this last week on the show when you were gone, John. That picture and the tweet and all this other news and smoke and just momentum around.
This stuff worries people.
Yeah. And so,
let me ask you a question outright. Pick two people on the planet you don't want Jalen Brown spending a lot of time with. Ding, ding. Like, my God, it's just,
yeah. And, that has a little bit more significance now. Maybe that's like the next duo in Brooklyn if they end up doing this deal. I don't know.
If you want to, and again, this is the more Jalen says, the more Kyrie I see in kind of his Twitter game and his reaction to things. And obviously, there's a million things to celebrate about him on and off the court and all of the stuff that he does for social justice and all of these things. So, he's remarkable in that regard. But this my thinking is on a different plane than everyone else's. Sort of stuff that you get with these guys is weird.
Well, it's not even that. It's
I want less of that. Yeah.
Why are you?
He's good. I get why he's good on his own.
I get why he's upset his name's being floated, especially since Brad in the past has said he's not being moved, right? So his name being floated out there, I guess, can be frustrating. But to take it personally or to say you're not valued, I mean, that to me was, I don't think that was accurate, right? Because these fans have had his back at every turn. Even during the worst days in the winter, all the fans are saying, right, don't trade Brown. Don't split these guys up. So they've had his back. I don't think there's really ever been any momentum from the fans because that's what he was liking, right? The fans disrespect Brown. I don't think there's ever been a strong wave of fans who have said move him or upgrade on him or anything like that. They've always loved him. So yeah. I didn't find that accurate. And then to tweet out in response to this and just sow even more frustration over what happened here, I don't think that's great either.
Really what it comes down to, there's two different things at play here. One, whether or not the Celtics are truly in on Kevin Durant. And naturally, any trade for Durant would have to involve Jalen Brown, and that's that. And how much of that is based off of getting Durant because that's who you want and that's your target, and you think, as you said, Bobby, that's going to make you much better. And he's a once-in-a-lifetime sort of player, and you have to take a shot with someone like that. And if Brad sees it that way, and if he does, then the offer with that in white and a pick makes sense as a starting point, letting them know I'm not really going much past that. But we can talk if you want to, if that's going to be the framework of a deal, and then we'll kind of fill around the edges. I understand it if that's what they really want. What I don't know is, are they deeply concerned that Jalen Brown is a flight risk in 2 years and are thinking this is the best deal we're going to get? So we actually do have to see whether
you think that's the motivation.
I do not know, and I don't want to presume.
We don't know. Like, how could you know? I don't think they'll know.
Based on nothing other than me reading tea leaves, how Brown reacts to things, the feelings of disrespect, the
photo.
Again, we're talking about stuff that is not journalism. This is just simply speculating. What do you think is going to happen? I am far from convinced, Jalen, and the fact that he's never really said anything about it. Every single thing they say, and I know Celtics fans will friggin', tie themselves.
Well, who's the one guy we didn't talk to in Vegas?
Yeah, exactly. He's never part of it all. Jalen, it's like he just seems apart from it. And I know it once a year, Brown and Tatum will sit together through gritted teeth and say something along the lines of like, we're cool. But like, it's so strained, it actually hurts the argument that they get along and that they play well together. It's fine. I don't believe
They
it.
had a good year
I
together.
don't think Brown hates Tatum or vice versa. I think if Brown left or this trade went through, Tatum's not going to be like, oh man, I lost my boy. I think he's fine. I think Jaylen very well could be looking for a place where he can be more of the guy and doesn't want to live under Tatum's shadow. I don't think they're a good basketball fit together. I don't think they play well together. None of it necessarily makes sense.
Well, you know who I'd be most
do
interested?
not believe Brown. I am not sold. If I had to make a call, I would say I would bet no on re-signing rather than yes. And the later you figure that out, the more problems you get to. So
Well, you know who I'd
if
love?
you
The
get a
truth.
clean break with 2 years left on a deal, this is the height of his value right now, and this is the best deal you think is coming around, you might not be able to wait for a better one. So I get the
No,
basketball
you
move.
wouldn't. Yeah.
If you were
Yeah.
worried, you can't really wait, and you might have to consider what's it going to take here to make this happen. Because I don't think Jalen's returning. If that's
Well,
what they
that's why I'm
think.
surprised. That's why I'm surprised by your take on it, because in the past, you've wanted to trade Brown for Desmond Bane and like a variety of
It's
role
not that
players and
I
spread the
would have
wealth on
done.
the roster.
I would have done no, because that's the thing. I would have done the trade for people that everyone tried to do for Jalen years back. A rising star like Jalen was 3 years ago, and gambling that in a year or two they're going to be at the same level as Brown. So I would have done Murray last year, but also gotten picks and another player from them. And I think you'd be better for something like that. Like potentially, if not right away, within a year or so, like a Halliburton is another one I mentioned. If that other team's going to give you if the other team's going to give you 4 picks and pick swaps plus a rising star that's affordable, that you don't have to max out, that you control for 5 more years or 4 more years instead of 2, and
But that's selling low on Brown.
and more players that will help you. Those are the types of trades I would have looked at for Brown, not the sell up for a superstar. That's what I would
No,
have considered.
you want to trade up. You want to trade Brown and stuff into a guy like Durant, who, like, if you were just starting out Brown's career, and I know it's a different situation now because of the fact that Brown's progressed and has become this all-star, borderline all-NBA guy. You would have dreamt way back in the day when you drafted Brown of him being the centerpiece of a guy that could get you a guy like Durant. Again, we might be past the window of when that would have been preferable to do, but it's here now. So you have to make a decision on it. That's what you want to do, I think, rather than trading, because that would have been selling, and that would have been kind of starting over on the fly, going with some other guys, whether it was Murray or Halliburton or whoever. And I do love Halliburton. I hold him in a different
Again, I'm
regard
not
than some of
saying
these
I
other
do these
guys.
trades. I'm saying those are the types of trades. If you were looking on it, you weren't sure whether Brown was going to stay, you wanted to try something else, you wanted to think about a different type of fit. That's the type of trade I would consider, instead of the trade him and everything else you can possibly throw into a pile for a slight upgrade. And I know Durant's a significant upgrade, but for like the Beal deal, it would be when people are talking about what it would take for Beal, it was Brown and a bunch of stuff for Beal, and I was like, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hated
And that's
that
what it
deal.
effectively is
And
for Durant right now.
I hated that trade. So it's not a matter of either how I feel about Brown or how I feel about Durant. It's just about what does it do for you? Like I think
Well,
Durant,
that's where I
I
draw a
think
line. I
Brown
have a
is way
very
too
hard
far
line on this.
evolved. I think Brown's game is too far along. He's too good now to be included in a package for players. That's it. What are you getting if you trade Durant for KD for Jalen straight up plus salary matching? Fine, different story. Yeah, because that to me is more equal. It's
Well,
an aging player.
the picks are given today. It stinks, but you kind of have to do it.
So again, it all comes down to if they're legitimately afraid Brown is leaving. If they're
So you would do White, Brown,
if you're
and a pick.
legitimately afraid, concerned, not sure, whatever, then you have to consider it, because 4 years versus 2 years is really what you're looking at. You're no longer looking at 33 versus 25. You're looking at 4 versus 2. That's the number that matters more. And so there it makes sense if you're worried about it. because your vibe is, I don't know if he loves it here with Tatum. I don't know if he wants to be the second guy. I get a feeling Boston's not the place for him. If you got that vibe and you're Brad or you're in the organization, yeah, you have to start to think about it from that perspective, because that's the only thing that matters anymore. It's 4 versus 2.
A follow-up report finally on the Brown response. Mark Murphy tweeting, source on Jalen Brown's reaction to trade rumors. He loves it in Boston. He was 2 games away from a championship. He's happy and looking forward to coming back. Like Kawhi, AD, and others on that level, he's going to be included in every report because of who he is. Who do you think that was from?
What that doesn't tell me is, what does coming back mean? Coming back this year? Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, he's excited. They're 2 wins from the finals. They want to get back at it. He's on the team. Like, who wouldn't be excited to have taken a team that was on the cusp of winning an NBA championship and adding a couple of pieces and running it back? Of course you feel pretty freaking great about that. But the question isn't that. The question is he committed to Boston long term? Nobody has that answer. So again, that report means nothing to me. And not to discredit the reporter. Murph is plugged in. He knows what he's talking about. He's talking to people. But there is no guarantee, and there won't be a guarantee. We've done this already. We did the Kyrie Irving dance. He's out there making commercials about his banner being raised to the rafters and announcing that he's going to come back at a season ticket holders event. And all of a sudden, 4 months later, he's already planned an exit.
Well, that also means as of today, he's coming back. Like today, he's on the roster. Today,
I know. He looking forward to coming back just means get to camp and run it back here. He's under contract for 2 more years. It means nothing. You don't have assurances with Brown. I guess the best way to make it work for him is make this a situation that's going to be really hard to leave, and offer him the full max. If you do those things, that's the best you can offer, obviously. But you have no idea if he wants it. So. Again, I don't put much stock in that at all. I don't put much stock in that. What you want to hear now, and I don't know whether or not we'll believe in this report as well, is that Celtics report coming out that says there's absolutely no truth to it. We love him. We would never do it. Yada, yada, yada. We don't have that yet, which is interesting to me.
Well, what if that one was from the Celtics?
I think Murph's thing is from the Celtics, but what you don't have from the Celtics side of things, on the local beat right now is that's preposterous. Jalen Brown is integral.
That's what I'm saying. So if that's how the Celtics are responding to it, not saying we'd never trade Jalen.
No, I mean that's probably someone close to Brown rather than from the Celtics. That Murph got it from. So
maybe I could see that coming from the Celtics too, depending on how you read it. But they're in a tough spot right now, though. Like that is a tough report to have dropped, but I look at it as they're legitimately interested in this. And Shams did indicate in that report that the team's discussing how to progress from here, move on from here. So is it an old report? I don't know, but he did have the Celtics angle in there that they're still kind of actively discussing how to respond to this, and the Nets rejecting that and what to do next here.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle, like if this is real and it's out there and your intentions are legit and you're trying to get Kevin Durant, and Jalen's been dangled and he knows it, that's not great. So that's the number one concern is, if they're not going to do it, can they repair this? And is Jalen going to store this one away, when it comes to renegotiation, and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna sign here and have you. I'm gonna pick my own destination. I'm not gonna sign here and be the subject of trade rumors for another 4 years because it's obvious you guys don't value and respect me.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to how much you have to give up here. You can alleviate that concern by doing this deal, and it's the best.
But are you concerned with Jalen's mentality now that it's out there?
Yeah, I've been concerned. We kicked around a week ago all the noise and smoke and everything else around him, and just sort of the discomfort, it seems like.
Well, someone asking, his position here. DM me at Twitter here, John_Zannis. Send me a DM. Someone just asking who purchased Athletic Greens, and thank you very much. DM me a receipt, and I will send you a T-shirt. John_Zannis. Sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, I've been concerned about his standing here, even beyond all the signals and whatever else we're kicking around here and pulling from. It just seems natural that a guy as good as him, who in that Kanye statement, I think that's like the hardest evidence we have more than anything else is that he looks at himself as underrated and Kanye looks at him as underrated. And this is sort of the camp that's guiding him into the future here now. So they're going to say if he's underrated or undervalued or whatever they look at it as, are they going to say the best route for you is staying in Boston under Tatum's wing? Because certainly, like, we see how this plays out. It's Tatum's team, and it's Deuce running around, and it's his face plastered on the posters.
Let's not do that next year. On a side note, I'm not going to do a whole Deuce show, but, like, leave the kid at home. Anyway, Go ahead.
So, like, that's sort of what people talk about when it comes to the Celtics, and they'll say, yeah, Brown's great too, or it'll be Tatum and Brown. I actually like when I'm writing to write Brown and Tatum just because of the alphabetical, but everyone says Tatum and Brown. It's just the way it is, and that's how it goes in this league. And we've seen it a million times over when two stars are on the same team. It just sort of seems to drift apart over time. Does Brown sign one more contract? That'd be great. But then a couple of years after that, maybe he gets uncomfortable in that contract or whatever the position is. Again, I think it has less to do with how the
players
team
have
does.
the leverage. There's no certainties. You're going year to year on keeping people happy, but you've got to, again, this one's. You got to sign that next deal and worry about that first,
And that's tough too. Here, I was kicking around this morning. You can't extend them, which is really tough. I don't know why the CBA is like that.
So
you
weird.
Can't give him a real offer. It's $123 million. Obviously, he'll be a guy when free agency comes who gets closer to 200 million, 200 plus.
Why can't you give him the deal you're going to give him in 2 years now?
I don't know. Dallas just went through that with Brunson. I think the max they could have offered him was like 45, and then he ends up getting 100. So. It's weird how that's set up in the CBA. That's probably something they'll have to look at among a million other things now that they're finally kicking that around. Because the goal is to keep guys with their teams, and that limits how well you're able to do that. Meanwhile, everyone's knocking Lillard and Beal now for staying with their team. That's what you want, right? Even though it doesn't look great for either of those guys now. Like the CBA, the way it was designed for those guys worked
to make it hard to leave
in Portland and Washington.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, they don't want to win. They would have got ripped if they went to a super team. I don't get why people are ripping them.
The point of this is the team that has you can offer you the most money, so you want to make it hard for players to just up and leave. You might scoff at it because it's funny money to us. 240 versus 210, or 300 versus 245. You're leaving $45 and $50 million on the table. It's a massive,
and that's what you're
amount
betting
of money.
On with Brown, right? He'd be foregoing a lot of money to leave Boston.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how you look at this if you're a fan and say, all right, most money at the end of the day. I know Brown just got a big extension on the first round.
Ton of money, winning situation.
Yeah. Maybe that if you look at it, if you're a fan right now, and I know I've been tough on the fans for not considering this enough. If you look at it and say Brown's in a good situation and your money's going to keep him here long term, and you like this core as it stands, I can't knock you for that because this is a really good core. That's a really good duo to move forward into the future with. And your window at that point would be what, like 7 years, 7 years instead of 2 years as it stands now. So I can't knock people for not wanting to do this, but you got to consider it. You got to at least weigh it.
As currently constituted, if in fact, it was the Brown and White and you're concerned about Jalen, I get it. Beyond that, it's not really a deal I want to do.